the Patrick Bet-David show.
Oh, this is
You're about to be VALUETAINed.
Okay, let me just say, this is like, I don't know that I've ever had this experience where I've watched this show and actually sort of felt like that the guest was worse than the host. Let's put it that way in terms of Patrick Bet-David. I mean, pretty close. I know I've watched it where it's where they're tied, but when you go on Patrick Bet-David and you're a conservative and you're mocked, you know you've got a problem.
Oh yeah.
And
Calibrate.
this is Vivek Ramaswamy, hot after his big splash with Ann Coulter, where he found it enlightening to have her tell him that he is not American enough. Incidentally, the guy was born in America. He's American.
You know what I mean.
Well, I don't know. We need to examine this because I know you're thinking like, oh.
People say Obama was born here too.
Yeah. Well, she concedes that he was born here, but
Does he have the compound interest Americanism that's required? You'll understand what that nonsense means in just a few minutes.
yeah, here is Ramaswamy on with Patrick Bet-David.
Ann Coulter, who we've had on the podcast before. Ann Coulter, I think you and her are, on a show together. You're doing something together. And she asked this question. I just want to get your reaction on. Rob, go ahead and play this clip.
The other part I like is that he doesn't realize that it was actually Vivek's own show.
You're on a show together.
You're on a show together. He doesn't even realize
You hosted her.
like that you actually invited her on.
Yes.
And then released this. It was his own
clipped it.
podcast
Yes.
and clipped it as a teaser. Good.
You're doing something together. And she asked this question. I just want to get your reaction on. Rob, go ahead and play this clip.
That's why I brought on today somebody who I think has some thoughtful perspectives on the future direction of our country, of our conservative movement, and on this question of nationalism and national identity. Somebody I've been fascinated by for a long time.
Can you fast forward to when
and
she
have
says it,
interacted
Rob?
with on social media, but for the first time we're having
Is it right here?
live form
Okay.
conversation in the offline sense of it. It's Ann Coulter. So Ann, thanks for coming on, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Me too. Thanks for having me. That was a fantastic opening monologue. I too am a fan of yours. So I'm going to make a point of disagreeing with you so that it will be fun. You are so bright and articulate, and I guess I can call you articulate since you're not an American black. Can't say that about them. That's derogatory. And that was a great opening segment. Lots of things to talk about there.
Pause it incidentally. Hold on one second. I just want to for people who are not as ancient as I am, she is referencing what Joe Biden said on during the primary campaign in 2008 about Barack Obama. And so just so that you know, I mean, it's a 16-year-old reference.
Well, it's also just a trope. Yeah, right.
Everyone knows not to be condescending racially.
Right. But she's specifically referencing when Biden said this about Obama.
Gotcha.
And that was a great opening segment. Lots of things to talk about there. Oh, and I agreed with many, many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president. But I still would not have voted for you because you're an Indian. We'll get back to that.
Just skip over the racism.
Well, first of all, did you know she was? Because it seems like when you guys are starting, there's a little bit of tension. I don't know if there was like pre-getting started where there was tension or not.
Oh, you're pretty good at picking that up, man. So actually, so to give you the context here. So I ran this podcast during the presidential campaign. Okay. It was called Truth.
Yeah.
I took some time off after the campaign, and now, getting back in the swing of things. So we relaunched the Truth podcast. Just relaunched it officially last
week. My show.
Get that up on the ground. We'd have good conversations. Right. And I wanted to pick on some people who had poked me a little bit on social media or in other ways to be able to, it's kind of boring to just talk about everybody who agrees with the same thing.
Right.
But let's get a little bit of tension from the left, from the right. So I'll bring Ann Coulter on because during the campaign, I don't remember what exactly she said, but on numerous instances would comment on different ways in which I might not be quite qualified to be president, right?
Pause it for a second. I mean, just think about like how much he's dancing around this. This is not like an argument of like, oh, we had a difference on tariffs. We had a difference on policy. No, she thinks I'm fundamentally a second-class citizen because I am of Indian descent. That's the disagreement. We just need to talk it out.
Yeah, let me tell you about how my podcast went on hiatus for a while and I'm trying to get back up to speed now.
Yeah. This is something. It's good to have an exchange of ideas. My idea is that we should be having policies that are retrograde, and her idea is that I'm subhuman.
Yes, well, and this is an example of somebody who has a lot of practice. Oh, she tweeted this during one of the debates. Nikki and Vivek are involved in some Hindu business, it seems. This is when they were going at each other. Not our fight. This is an example of a guy who has been in a lot of white rooms and has decided to, because it's more lucrative to him, explain away the racism that is directed towards him. So he's well practiced, honestly, in downplaying it, and that's what's on display in this very moment. Yeah,
but he's good at it. He's so good at the way he's dancing around this.
He's like an Emmanuel Acho sort of.
A little bit.
All right, go ahead.
On different ways in which I might not be quite qualified to be president, right? So let's get it on and have a conversation. And both of us are interested in the theme of nationalism. I did not expect she would just kick it off right there, get right into the business. And I think it actually made for a really good conversation, believe it or not. Of course, I disagree with hell like her on that being a criteria to be the U.S. president.
Pause it. I mean, listen what he is saying. I disagree with her on that, whether that's a criteria. He's not, he won't even utter the words that she's racist. It's criteria. And you know what? Of course I disagree with her on the criteria. I happen to think that I'm actually not a second-class citizen because I'm brown.
I listened to it. His argument was about efficacy. Like, I don't think that's a very efficient way to go about doing the nationalism we all want.
Because he can't alienate the audience because they all say the same thing. They say, I like you, but you are not American enough for me. This is my favorite part, the rationalization, this part here that he goes through. Just listen to this. It's like he's coming up with some mathematical equation to explain it away.
Into the business. And I think it actually made for a really good conversation.
Yeah.
Of course, I disagree with hell like her on that being a criteria to be the U.S. president.
Of course.
Her description of whether or not you're an Indian. I'm born in the United States. I'm as American as they come. But I thought it actually formed a really strong basis for an honest conversation that we otherwise don't have. Because her view is that in order to actually be a U.S. president, you got to be even more American, right? So you're not fully American if your parents weren't from the United States of America. And in order to trust somebody, the more generations they've been here, let's say you've been here 6 or 7 generations.
Pause it for a second.
You have more.
You know, it starts to make me think about guys like George Washington and Sam Adams and like all these pretenders who we call the founding fathers. Wait a second. Where were they born? Where were their parents born? This is the idea that he is even pretending that is what her criteria is. You need to have multiple generations in the country as opposed to your skin color.
Right. It's also American equity that's been built up in your portfolio for long.
A lot of Latinos have duration in this country for like where the border jumped them. Like that, they don't qualify for culture either. It is not about that.
Oh my God. But he's just so pretending. And the amazing thing is that like, this is just, it's just.
They don't buy it. Even PBD, as you were saying to start, they are almost laughing at him at this point.
Oh, what is amazing is that he is putting on a masterclass of like, how can I seem like I'm maintaining a shred of dignity when I'm appealing to people who think I'm subhuman to maintain any of what I have built up in the course of running for president. And the best part is like he's also basically saying a significant portion of the Republican Party is full-on racist, but he's not going to say those words.
They ask him about that too, yeah.
Somebody, the more generations they've been here, let's say you've been here 6 or 7 generations, you have more of what she would call, I think she did call it in the podcast, a security policy. It's like an insurance policy that you know that if you're going to put somebody in that high office, at least you know that they've really, really soaked up what it means to be American. Now, I disagree with that. I disagree with that because you have people.
Pause it right there. Look at that. Go back.
He's laughing.
You know what Patrick Bet-David is laughing at right now? It's like he cannot believe this guy is trying to now, and this is like one of those situations where like player respects player. Right? Because Patrick Bet-David made all his money through basically a multi-level marketing plan.
Yeah.
So he knows how to walk into a room and bullshit and sell whatever piece of garbage it is he has.
Yep.
And he's looking at this guy going like, holy cow.
Game recognized.
This guy's
game.
saying to me,
Yep.
who we look the same skin tone, same background. One's Persian, one's Indian. I don't know if Patrick Bet-David is first generation or second generation, but this guy's trying to sell to me that the issue that Ann Coulter has is how many generations have been here. Now, of course, if Vivek was, instead of being Indian from India, was indigenous American,
Yeah.
I don't think Ann Coulter would say, like, you're the most qualified person in this entire race because your family's been here for generation upon generation. But like, and Bet-David can't even believe this guy's trying to sell him this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's watching. He's just like, game sees game.
American. Now, I disagree with that. I disagree with that because you have people in the seventh generation Americans who are the kids of some, I've known many of these people, grow up in the Upper East Side. Some daughter who lives in Brooklyn thinks she's a hippie, talks about hating this country. Well, I don't think that person's any more American than I am just because my parents happen to have been legal immigrants to this country.
So I got two questions for you.
But it made for a good conversation.
I got two questions for you with this, okay? On one end, how many people you think are like, if you were to say, of the voters bloc, what percentage of the voter bloc agrees with her?
So say in the Republican primary?
In the Republican primary to say, you know what, I'm not going to, even if it's 1%, 2%, 3%, what do you think it is?
So I will tell you this with confidence. It is a lot higher than I believed it was a year ago.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's a lot higher than I believe you would think it is, too.
Interesting.
Which is why, and I said this on social media, and some people hit me on the left from it, I said I respect her for saying it, even though I disagree. Right? Because at least she has the spine to say in public what many other people, not a majority, not even close to a majority, but a lot of people. She's not alone.
All right, pause. Now, let's just stop and speculate here. Now, let's also be clear here. He's admiring her because she has the spine. Now, I don't know who he says doesn't have the spine. Because to not have a spine in this situation, right? They've got to be racist. They're not going to vote for me because I'm brown. Now, he's coming back and saying, after my experience on the campaign trail, Patrick, you'd be surprised, really surprised. Now, I know you just said 3%, but you'd be surprised, much bigger than that. Now, is it a majority? No. So it's probably like 45%, maybe. But he's also conceding that of those 45%, the figure that he has developed are just the people who came up to him and said it. But he's saying, like, there's a cohort of people out there who don't have the spine to say it, and he could tell on some level. So here's a guy who's basically saying, like, I am a nationalist, even though I've found out that a significant number of these nationalists think that I am subhuman, that I am second-class citizen because of the color of my skin. And now, of course, he's saying it's because of how many generations my family goes back in this country. But even Patrick Bet-David is laughing at him about that. All right, go back.
To a majority, but a lot of people. She's not alone. She is voicing a view that I think is widespread. And actually, what the hell? We're here. We're just gonna let loose a little bit. I had somebody text me who had run for position. You guys might know her, Harmeet Dillon. You know Harmeet Dillon?
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
Harmeet's super cool, so I hope she's fine with me saying this because I think it's important that the public know. We can't just have these conversations behind closed doors, not having them in the open. So that when she ran for her position of being the chairwoman of the RNC, she had many people tell her the same thing too, which is interesting to me because most of the grassroots was a lot of the grassroots were with me. A lot of grassroots were with people like Harmeet. But there are people who believe that if you're electing people to positions of leadership, how American you are is a spectrum.
When you
Okay, can you pause it for a sec? This is what's in when you're electing. That was first of all when he talks about Ann Coulter having a spine. He certainly has the absent, like, is missing one, right? So perhaps that's why he's coveting hers. Yeah. But like that's the thing is. Positions of power, positions of authority. Yes, Vivek, you are identifying some of the issues with systemic racism and sexism, by the way. In the why representation is important is that people begin to understand, oh, I can visualize this human being in a position of authority, but the conservative voting base that he is trying to appeal to by debasing himself in such a way only respects a certain kind of person. They have to look a specific kind of way.
And they're not willing to do
Hold on.
genealogy.
Now, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me just take Vivek's position here for a moment, because Emma, it's so easy for you in Brooklyn
I'm a hippie.
to sit here, hippy dippy, and you're not listening to him. He's not saying it's about skin color. It's about degree of Americanism that is a function of how many generations you've been here, unless you've been here generations prior to the start of America, unless you were one of the founding fathers. So it's somewhere between. It is a measure of Americanism
That starts when we decide.
Starts in the probably early 1800s and then goes forward from there.
Yeah. You know what's funny is that's
But
libertarian.
You just immediately go to
Yes, I know.
the
I know.
fact that he's got brown skin.
Well, it's because I have the America quotient because I had some relatives on the Mayflower, but I don't know if he would be supportive of my presidency.
Emma Vigeland.
Well, maybe because of the whole girl thing, that would have been a little.
Trump
bit
had
difficult.
20th century immigrants in his genealogy, right? Isn't that
Gross.
Like-
All right, go
I
ahead.
know, but yeah.
anybody face you, confront you, and say, I would totally support you, but you're too brown for me? Did anyone say
So
that?
I had many of those for religion. So I didn't have anybody come up and say that because of, well, there were people on social media who would make an argument. It wasn't the ethnicity. And this is part of Ann's point, too. It's the point that your parents were immigrants to this country. And so you are truly not at the highest level of being American to be president of the United States.
Right.
So we had a number of people that would say that occasionally. A much more common one, though, for people to my face was, I would love to vote for you. It's difficult for me to vote for somebody else because I agree with you more. But I can't do that because you are Hindu. That came up a lot, especially in Iowa.
Even the town hall when we did, somebody asked you, one of the ladies got up
You
and
remember that. I remember
they
that
asked
too.
you the
Yep.
question, but I thought your answer was fantastic.
But I remember her. I was standing on stage. She was standing right there, very thoughtful.
Yes.
I don't think she was in the category of saying I can't vote for
No,
you.
she didn't say
She
that.
asked a very legitimate question.
She did.
She said, tell me about your faith.
That's right.
Because if you're running for president, I got to know who you are.
Right.
And if your faith is important to you,
Yeah.
then in order to know who you are, I got to know your faith. That's different from, I'm telling you though, I will face people in Iowa. There's a pastor in Iowa who wrote an extensive Facebook post. I spent 2 hours with him on the back of a bus talking it through, and he still came out on the other side.
Pause it
He
for
said,
one
if it was
second.
God's
Just to
will-
be clear, Vivek had to sit at the back of the bus. The other guy was at the front of the bus, and they were yelling because Vivek didn't want to offend his sensibilities. Because, as you know, Vivek's on the scale of Americanism has
spectrum.
less on the spectrum of Americanism is less American because of his parents.
How dare you not reject that? I mean, Jesus.
God, just unbelievable.
This is the worst. This is the most debased thing I've seen.
It
And
is-
we watch Dave Rubin videos.
Exactly.
Oh, I know.
This is
Did,
just stunning.
did-
It's just stunning.
Did Ann Coulter make that argument about Ted Cruz? Right?
Right.
Wasn't Rafael Cruz
was
from
a
Cuba?
that's
Batista
true.
refugee.
It's a
Oh,
lot.
I think she was supportive of Ted Cruz.
That's what I'm trying to think in the back of my mind, right? She
The
likes Ted
victim of
Cruz. 'Cause
communism, so he's automatically American.
well, she lost her cachet for turning against Trump, right? So, like, she's trying to get relevant. That's how she made a name for herself, is just saying the most racist stuff, and then like pushing the Overton window out for certain Republicans to say kind of things. But like, you never hear that argument made by right wingers, and you wouldn't hear that about someone like Ted Cruz because he's white passing.
I wonder if she has like an improv group where they workshop what are the different ways we can be racist, but pretend it's some other measure. Like, of course, you have the when were your parents born here spectrum.
The religion trick worked for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. And like, what? Exactly.
And black people started being Christian. They were like, damn it.
Darn it. Well, now we've got to go to parents, and then the
America Bank, the amount of vestiture, right, that you've invested in America, and that can only happen over time on a certain kind of scale.
There's got to be some other metric that they're going to have to develop too at one point when I don't know what this is why they have their improv sessions. Go ahead.
But really quick point. I think he really thought that the almost like financial model of Americanism framework would appeal to the PBD guys, and they just laughed in his face.
That's
the content, baby.
2 hours with him on the back of a bus, talking it through, and he still came out on the other side. As he said, if it is God's will for you to be the U.S. president, I will accept it.
Respect.
But I can't vote for you myself because I can't vote for somebody who doesn't share my.
Let me stay on this here. So, first of all, if strategically, I don't know if Ann Coulter wants to sell you some product that Sammy Sosa used. I don't know if you're familiar with Sammy Sosa. Sammy Sosa actually.
He whitened his skin. Yes. Yeah, the skin whitener.
Sammy Sosa.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought, I know he's a good baseball.
He used what Michael Jackson
If
used.
you're interested,
No, this is real. This is a real story. This is not made up.
He got his skin to be lighter, so you can go couple shade, lighter. Rob, I don't know why you're laughing. I'm trying to make a solution here to make Ann happy.
I'm not going to be a customer. I'm sorry, but
He was
So, by the way, this guy hit 66 home runs and he saved MLB in 1998. Let me go back to the question here with this one here.
Well, pause it for 1 second. What's amazing is like how Vivek, these guys are all basically saying like, we all know it's because you're brown. It's not because of when your parents were born here. And Vivek manages to avoid engaging with that conversation the entire time. It's amazing, and has absolutely he's got this veneer that he's just like, I'm going to smile through this whole thing and
Oh my gosh.
not take it serious, and just, it's, my parents weren't born here. So, it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm brown. Go ahead. It's amazing to
Bringing
watch
up
someone
Sammy Sosa, like
do this.
They brought a photo out, and he is so rich, he doesn't have to do this. Like, that's the thing about Vivek. He's doing it for the love of the game.
Well, this, when I see this type of thing, this looks like, honestly, like some serious trauma that has not been worked through from honestly. Like,
Yeah.
Or someone has something
It's
on.
like, it is to subject yourself to this. It is like, what is it that he's hoping to get? Like, he must realize now the American public, the party that he belongs to, is never going to accept him as in an elected position. And this guy's, what's he doing? Vying for Commerce Secretary under Trump? Like, honestly, like what? Like, you got $1 billion, dude. Just go
take vacations.
Take vacations.
Okay, what do you think is more extreme? Tell me how your argument is on the other side. So one side, you know what? I don't think America, because, back in the days, what was JFK was, Tom, you said Roman Catholic? It was a Roman Catholic where America
those were the headlines when Nixon was running. It's a Roman Catholic.
We're not ready for a Roman Catholic president. Okay, and then America said, nah, we're okay with it, right?
We're actually cool with that, yeah.
Okay, we're actually cool with that. Do you think, give me which of these are more extreme. So do you think Ann Coulter's position of saying, no, not only do I want you to be a natural-born citizen, but I also want you to be white, to be a true nationalist, to be a president here. How about the opposite side? What about somebody that wasn't born here but has lived here for 35 years?
Yeah.
Should this person have the right to run for office one day in America? If they've paid their taxes, they've paid their dues, they've lived in America for 35 years, should they have the chance to run for office?
should they have the chance to run for U.S. president?
President.
No. You want to know why? Because the
Why?
Constitution says so. So if you want to change the Constitution. And would you have 2/3 of this country and 2/3 of the state ratify that? That's a separate conversation.
Right.
But what the Constitution says now is you have to be a natural-born citizen.
Sure.
And a natural-born citizen, as it's ever been read by courts, as it's ever been read through American history for the last century and a half, is you're born in the United States of America. And so I think the Constitution is a beautiful thing. We don't have to relitigate these questions every generation.
Ann Coulter does.
What the Constitution actually
And
says.
if Ann Coulter is watching, maybe Ann Coulter wants to amend the Constitution and say, naturally born white citizen, right?
Yeah. See,
with a skin tone that is, maybe be put tears in the skin tone to please Ann Coulter. What do you think? I'm just trying to get some creative ideas here.
Biden's father are all born in America. I would much rather vote for somebody like this than somebody that's family's been here and ain't doing shit.
So if you like this clip and you want to
Okay.
It was very
Amazing.
good.
Amazing. I don't know what was more dramatic, watching Bill Burr tool on Bill Maher, or watching Patrick Bet-David, of all people, tool on Vivek.
The chat is saying they are thoroughly value-tained, so.
Oh, good.
Completely value-tained with that. I mean, that is amazing. It really is amazing. Like the ability for them to have that conversation and not acknowledge the fact that according to Vivek, a huge percentage of the Republican Party has a sliding scale on whether you're American or not, based upon. I mean, everybody knows. Like they didn't even pretend like what he was saying was true. That it was just a question of brownness.
Yeah, they aren't going to Ancestry.com and doing the research, guys.
And yet, do you think that Patrick Bet-David will ever bring this up or explore it again?
No,
it will have no impact on the rest of his output at all.
But he felt comfortable kind of talking down to him there too, because he knows in the end this guy doesn't really have any power. He's just a competitor. They're similar. They're rich guys who with a podcast.
That's basically what it was.
That's
like,
part of why he didn't acknowledge that it was his podcast either. He said you were on a
show
podcast.
together.
Right.
Oh,
We put
yeah.
that together.
That's true.
Yep. I'll give credit to
He's a great businessman, PVD.
I want to give credit to my fiance who found this clip for me. Actually, I've thoroughly poisoned his brain to such a degree that he finds enjoyment out of this too. So
That was quite good.
yeah.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.